Hi guys. So today's vlog, I suppose you'd say, is we didn't have a very training session. Honestly, we were supposed to be doing um, 5 minutes of sorry, 5 sets of 5 minutes at 300 watts on the bike. As you can see from the board there, that's the training plan. Didn't honestly go to plan. I did the first two, then it was just terrible, and I just couldn't keep the power, so I stopped. But that's just the way it is sometimes, I guess. Try again another time. I will tick it off, and then I'll move on. Um, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. Was training blocks. Not a topic I knew a massive amount about before. I always just thought, go out, ride your bike, do your running, whatever, and you'll get better. Do your training, so just keep doing training sessions again and again and again. Obviously, take rest in between and vary training sessions, and eventually you'll get better. But it's only recently I learned about training blocks and the context in the context of periodized training, which, as the name suggests, is you do different training in different periods. There's a lot of debate of which way you do it. You might hear reverse periodized, traditional periodized, or custom, or even I forget the name, but just completely nonsensical periods where you just put different training blocks all the time. But the premise of them, and they all seem to work roughly the same amount, is the key takeaway there. But what is a training block? So that's just where you do a particular type of training and you do focus mainly on that training for a certain amount of time. Then you usually take a deload amount of time, usually a week, and then you do a different block and you repeat those blocks. Now, the premise of these blocks is usually thought of as building your pyramid. So, if you think of the bottom of your pyramid, that's your endurance base. That's got the biggest block of your pyramid sits at the bottom. And the bigger that step is, the bigger the steps on top of it can be, because they can only be smaller than the bottom endurance block. So the bigger your endurance block is, the bigger your threshold VO2 max sprint block can be. So that's the premise. So I think it's easier just to start with an endurance block. I use a 3 week on, 1 week off block system. And at the moment, I've been doing blocks of three. So I do 3 weeks of mainly endurance work. So keep the workouts pretty much the same, but I really focus on that endurance session. So on my sort of indoor hard sessions, I'll do like a tempo sweet spot sort of efforts. So just slightly sub threshold. So maybe like sets of 15, sets of 20 minutes, that sort of thing. But the real focus is on those longer endurance rides. So from that's for me, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, going out for a good few hours. It's okay to stop at a cafe while you're out there, um, and then get those hours in at not really a particular pace. Don't really try and do a certain amount of speed. You can aim for zone two if you want to, but really it's just about getting time on the ground, as it were. Then you can move into a threshold block. You do the same. The intensity level goes up on those harder workouts. Keep all the other stuff in, the endurance stuff. That you can even be doing VO2 max tools at that time as well. But just really focus on that threshold block. Again, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. Then the next block for me is VO2 max block, where I really focus on that sort of 3 to 8 minute power. Again, keep all the other bits in. Keep that endurance block going, that endurance work going. Don't neglect it for 3 weeks, but really focus on that VO2 max block. Then again, a week off. Then I usually take a few weeks just to adapt to what I've done. Maybe have a week off where I don't really do anything. Then I usually try and test myself. So I'll do another video on testing later, but just come up with some tests. You can use traditional FTP tests, VO2 max tests, time trials, whatever works for you, or just go and do a ride and see how fast you go for certain bits. Whatever works for you, but some metric that you consistently do over and over to see if you've improved, basically, and then you know where to train it. So if you set your power zones at a certain FTP and you've done 3 weeks of training and a week off to absorb that training, if you've done it right, those power zones may well have changed. So you change those in. So say you were doing 300 watts for your FTP before, and all your threshold work was done just sub 300 watts. Well, now you need to test it and get 310 watts and increase that threshold training amount. So when you're doing your next threshold block, you'll be at 305, 310 watts. So that's what I talk about. Training blocks, highly recommend. Really help break down the training into blocks. Help you get it just stops you doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. It gives you a focus, right? This week I'm doing that, right? This week I'm doing that. And it also builds in those deload weeks where you can just have a few days off, and lower that training volume and intensity down. Just enjoy whatever you're doing. So yeah, training blocks, highly recommend. Definitely worth trying them. I would ask ChatGPT about them. It's really knowledgeable about that sort of stuff. Building the pyramid, um, the time of length block you should do, how the training differs between blocks. Really useful information on there. And so you can do periodized, random. That's the word I was looking for. Periodized, random, yeah, reverse, or just custom. However long the blocks work for you, however many weeks off work for you. Repeat the blocks over and over. I did one where I did the threshold block a couple of times because I hadn't quite completed what I wanted to get out of it. So it's kind of up to you, but it really just gives you a focus for those bits. So yeah, that's sort of vlogged for today. Tomorrow we're going on holiday for 3 days in Yorkshire, where we're going to be cycling and running around. It should be pretty awesome. That's that endurance base we're talking about. Building into a bit of a week off after that. And then we've got the first race of the year, which is the Ribby Hall Triathlon, which is local to me. 400 metre swim, 20k cycle, 5k run. So we're aiming for, I think, 8 minutes swim, average 20 miles an hour on the bike, and then try and go 25-minute 5k. We'll let you know how it goes. Hope to get some footage. See you guys. Bye.